So, I mean, that's something that's going to be wrong. Yeah, that's what
She's getting these brushes that you want.
She just didn't, she didn't know anything. That's it. So you.
City of Clarksburg agenda for a regular meeting of council of the City of Clarksburg to be held today, Thursday, May 18th, 2023, at the Clarksburg Municipal Building, Council Chambers, 222 West Main Street, Clarksburg, West Virginia, at 6 p.m.
Will Hyman.
Here.
Gary Keith.
Here.
Jim Alphajet.
Here.
Jerry Riffle.
Here.
Wayne Worth.
Here.
Vice Mayor Junkins.
Here.
Mayor Marino.
Here.
This evening we have our prayer and our pledge by Councilmember Alphajet.
Heavenly Father, we come to you this evening asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us to engage in meaningful discussion, allow us to grow closer as a group and nurture the bonds of the community. Fill us with your grace as we make decisions and continue to remind us that all that we do here this evening and all that we accomplish is for the pursuit of truth, for the greater glory of your name, and for the service of humanity. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This evening we have a special presentation by Chief Gary.
Back on the 1st of April, the department started a new awards and recognition program for officers and civilians in the community. They can be nominated for different types of awards in our department. We had a nomination committee that reviews it, and then they're submitted to me for final approval. And Detective Sergeant Swigert and Detective Chris were nominated by their lieutenant for a Detective Sergeant J. Stephen Toriak Award. Many of you know Detective Toriak was a retired member of the Clarksburg Police Department, detective for several years, and a well-known police officer in the community. In it states, Detective Sergeant William G. Swigert this is presented to Detective Sergeant William G. Swigert for his exemplary robbery investigation at Verizon on Emily Drive, Clarksburg, West Virginia, on April 5th, 2023. This investigation started with a partial vehicle description and a photo of the suspect, involved countless man hours and technological research in developing a suspect from the state of California. Detective Sergeant Swigert tracked the suspect's vehicle that was rented in the state of Arkansas to its return destination in Orchard Park, New York. Our authorities were notified, and on April 10th, 2023, Tushawn Glenn was arrested for robbery and extradited back to West Virginia. Because of the exhaustive investigative efforts of Detective Sergeant William Swigert, Tushawn Glenn was identified in 17 other states for similar incidents involving tens of thousands of dollars in property loss. Your service and dedication are a great asset to the Clarksburg Police Department, City of Clarksburg, and the citizens of Clarksburg. Dated May 18, 2023.
Approval of the minutes of the special session of April 26, 2023.
So moved. Second.
Been moved and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Ayes have it.
Petitions, communications, and public hearings. Chris Lane, 317 Buchanan Avenue, wishes to address council.
How's everybody this evening?
Wonderful.
I'd like to think I got some good news, happy news at least. Would like to extend great appreciation and great thanks to Johnny Workman with Public Works. The other week, he had a crew out on Spring Avenue that actually excavated the street, installed a secondary storm inlet upstream of the storm inlet that was installed incorrectly. His guys came out there, it was safe, efficient. From everything I've seen, did good quality work. The end result, when it's all said and done, I feel very confident that that'll address the issue with the property flooding down the street with Phil and Beth. That's going to prevent the water from getting down to them. In addition to installing the storm drain, his crews also installed asphalt curb along the backside of my property, as well as the top of spring in St. Clair. I feel pretty confident those curbs will help direct the water to the storm drain system and prevent the flooding that's been going on my property as well as Ms. Reader's property. My understanding, I believe Mr. Workman took it upon himself to get the issue corrected. He's swift, he's quick, he did quality work. He's a very, very good man, good asset to the city. I think the city should have great appreciation for him as well as everyone would be up there. I just wanted to voice my appreciation for what he did out there the other week and what his crews did. So that was good to say after a year. So aside from that, I wanted to have a quick follow-up. I don't know if there's any more candidate debates coming up in the next few weeks, but sure if there was or not. I didn't find out last minute, but there was one last night. That was the first one I had attended. Wanted to have actually a quick follow-up with you, Mr. Junkins, on the CCA. Asked if it was possible to volunteer. You said you'd get with me. I know in your comments there last night, you highlighted the CCA and everything it was doing and has done for the city. So I was curious on it, because I hadn't heard about the CCA in quite a while. With that in mind, I'm happy to chat here after the meeting if you're available, but whenever I did a quick record search on it, Secretary of State showing that it was terminated December of 21 for failure to file annual reports. And the IRS tax exempt shows it terminated May of 21 for failure to file reports. So I didn't know if the CCA was still active, if it was still ongoing, if anybody in the community is still able to volunteer with it, if it was rolled into the city. I know the city started a beautification committee. I didn't know if beautification started around the time the CCA was fizzling out. I don't know if the beautification does any type of volunteering efforts, if that's the avenue or place to volunteer in. But if there's anything you can do right there, would be happy to. I know here recently, last First Friday, the senior center had their bus doing a shuttle around the city. And my two little ones, a 5 and 7-year-old, was more excited about riding the bus than just getting from point A to point B. And it's, was a nice little event, nice little attraction for the kids there. So I actually, donated some resources to the Senior Citizen Center and had them bring some of their vehicles down to our service station there, Wilsonburg, and charged up their air condition because it was getting a little warm that day. It's spring summer around the corner and the air wasn't blowing too cold. So if there's anything we can do to help out, be more happy to do so. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tommy Lopez, 307 Spring Avenue.
I'll echo what Chris said in relationship to the city crew that came to work on Spring Avenue and Johnny Workman. They did a very good job. I'll continue to separate myself from his comments in that the issues on Spring Avenue or Buchanan aren't resolved. There's still horrific air. My property hasn't been corrected, nor has multiple other neighbors' properties been corrected. As you all are aware, I was here 2 weeks ago, and we were supposed to have a committee put together so that citizens could talk back and forth and discuss this issue. Nothing. I want you guys to answer in your comments where that committee is, where that meeting is taking place at, so that we as citizens don't continue to get abused and not able to talk or get answers. Okay, in addition to that, the blacktop and other stuff that was put up to remedy the water runoff is unacceptable in our neighborhood. There aren't blacktop curbs in our neighborhood. Forgetting the work not being appropriate. Okay, there's probably about 7,000 feet of curb that you guys better get ready for. Because I've called the DEP multiple times. You guys don't respond. Your employees are getting emails from the DEP saying, Tommy, stuff's wrong. Okay, I come to the city manager and ask, where's the written plan? You guys showed up and you're digging out the brains. You weren't wrong all this time, but now you are. 2 years, he was wrong. It's been 2 years. 2 years. You guys were wrong. And there's more wrong. So what do you want to do about it? Continue to not let us talk? Continue to not offer us a forum? I came Friday, 2 weeks tomorrow, to volunteer to be on the stormwater committee that you guys have erroneously not had in place, and you're in violation of your MS4 with. I was told, well, we don't have a committee, we can't put it together yet. It's been 2 weeks, ain't heard nothing. Here's more citizens. Now you're wrong. So what are we going to do? You can't talk to nobody. You guys all know I've sent multiple emails. They don't get returned. They don't get forwarded to you. I've asked what the process is to have an email sent to you guys through the city manager, through the clerk. Well, no answers. You guys are all personally aware, personally, for the last 2 years of the abuse and carnage that's gone on. So you need to answer. Don't skip it in your comments like many of you do. Answer for where just in the last 2 weeks You guys were supposed to have a forum put together for us to talk about all the issues. I asked the city manager, can I have a written list of what's going on? Can you at least give me the plan for what's going on? No, there isn't nothing. Well, what do you mean there isn't nothing? You're out here digging up the street. How can you tell me there's nothing? Well, it's in the DEP report. Well, the DEP report's a whole other version of malfeasance. It was received by it's dated to the mayor for April the 6th. I don't know where it went. You guys all said there was no new information in multiple meetings after April the 6th, but there's a letter from the DEP dated April the 6th. So where was the information? I've asked who got it, where'd it go, where was it? Nobody knows. Magic again. It's unacceptable, folks. Okay, it's not funny. We've got multiple neighbors, multiple issues, multiple things that no one will address. No matter what a citizen does. And you were wrong. Okay, the streets are messed up. I've got personal emails from the DEP talking about what needs done. The city engineers on it. No response to Tommy again. No response to the citizens for nothing. Where's the meeting? Okay, it's not right. Next question I want you to each answer in your closing comments. Explain the amendment on the ballot. If the citizens defeat the proposed amendment on the ballot, I want each of you council people, because we're all asking and nobody knows, I want each of you to explain what happens if the amendment on the ballot fails. Does that negate this whole election? We've told everybody it's a one-year term. If the amendment fails, well, what happens? We understand if it passes, certainly then this election's valid. But seriously, I'm not being smart about it. Nobody knows. I've asked people individually, collectively, what happens if the citizens defeat the amendment on the ballot? What is your understanding of what happens to the city of Clarksburg? How do the seats get filled? What happens to the election? This is all this election we got going on now void. Okay, I've heard we got to go to circuit court, I've heard it's this, I've heard it's that. Nobody can answer. I'm asking you to individually answer for the street problem and the amendment issue in your closing comments. Thank you.
Jeff Thompson, 402 East Main Street, wishes to address council concerning wasted funds and unnecessary projects.
I'd like to address this council about the proposed, about the bike trails on Knox Hill. You guys, as the council know, the city's funding is not the best in the world right now. We've got other things going on. Yes, I've been hearing, oh, we're gonna have a grant pay for it. We're gonna have this pay for it. But again, we're gonna go back to Mr. Lopez's statements about not having a written documentation about what a plan is. There is no written plan, nothing. What are you gonna do for parking? What are you gonna do for roads? What are you gonna do for maintenance of the trails? What are you gonna do for liability insurance? Those are ongoing fees that the taxpayers of this city are gonna have to pay. Where are you gonna pull those funds from? There's no plan in place that dictates where that's coming from. Nothing. And we're going at it again, okay? I appreciate the Robinson Grant, but I think we overspent on the Robinson Grant. Yes, it needed to be done. I applaud the efforts, but again, we're paying for something that, we're not getting a great return from the Robinson Grant to pay for itself. Okay, ticket sales are not the best in the world on some events, and we end up losing money as a whole. I'm looking at the same thing for the trails on Lowndes Hill. I mean, have you even looked at an erosion for what it's going to do, not only on the hillside where the trails are at, but about the houses below, how that's going to affect the citizens and the residents up on that hill. We already got issues up there with drainage. There is no plan. Oh, it's in the grant, the engineers. You should be doing a test of everything you need prior to putting in a grant. You should know what is entailed in a project before you start requesting grant funds. You already know what you need to do So if it overruns those grant funds, it costs more, you have an idea where you might be able to pull those funds from. What about Civil War stuff that's up there? There's trenches and stuff. We don't know what's in those trenches. No one's really doing it. There's going to be some excavation. I'm not saying there's going to be tons, but there's going to be some. What if they find relics? And they have to stop what they're doing and address those. That's going to cost more money for the city. I'm not against this project, ladies and gentlemen. What I am against is being forced down our throats without any proper planning. Okay? There's no written documentation. There's no written plan. Okay? Where I work at, I have to come up with plans. I have to dictate when I'm buying IT equipment, where it's going, how it's going to be used. I have to show, does it meet requirements? Got requirements. I've got to be able to show that. You guys are not showing anything. Okay? I'm sorry, but it's going back to Mr. Lopez. Again, lack of communication. Okay? There should be a board on this. Individuals on this council should not be pushing it through on their own merit. There should be a board for discussion so that people, citizens of this town, understand what is they're getting ready to be in. Have to pay for and everything else. Liability insurance is very expensive. Okay? And this idea of ride at your own risk. It doesn't matter if you are riding at your own risk. If someone falls and gets injured up there, first thing we're going to do is an attorney's going to approach that individual and they're going to try to sue the city based on whatever they can come up with. Okay? And if you don't have proper liability insurance on that, the citizens, here we go again. And then our insurance is going to go up, even if we do pay out. Okay? Again, I'm not against stuff. I think things like that can help this city. But piss poor planning doesn't make for good, happy citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
City managers report and update.
City Manager's Report, May 18th, 2023. From the Economic Development Department, staff continues efforts with stakeholders on the Recreational Trails Program. Staff attended the CVB Hotel Selection Subcommittee to update parcel and historic structural data. Staff are finalizing revisions to the URA side lot program and establishing parcel value. From the Police Department, congratulations to Patrolman Chapin Perkey, Patrolman Jonah Corbin, and Patrolman Nathaniel Murphy, and Patrolman Jonathan Stern for graduating from the West Virginia State Police Academy. These officers have started their field training this week. New officers, Patrolman Cordell Lloyd and Patrolman Christian Nutter, were also sworn in today. Patrolman First Class Jeremy Randolph was awarded the Officer of the Month for April 2023. And the department would like to remind everyone to drive safely during the holiday weekend. From City Parks, Splash Zone slide inspection is scheduled for May 19th, and preparations for opening Memorial Day weekend are nearly complete. Staff will meet with Thrasher to develop a bid package for the pickleball courts. 38 Special and Tracy Lawrence tickets are on sale now and are at 1,245 and 1,275 tickets sold respectively. Crowder tickets went on sale May the 12th. From Wastewater Treatment Plant, the upgrade to the thickener has begun this week, removing the old troughs and installing the new troughs. We are still awaiting the main components from the Walker process to replace the rest. From the Fire Department, 3 firefighters are in the process of completing their Rope 2 technician level training, and the United Methodist Temple at the corner of Sycamore and Locust allowed the firefighters to use a building that was going to be demolished for some live door and wall breach rescue training. We would like to thank them for this opportunity. From the RG, dance recital season is now in progress at the Robinson Grand, and we will host 6 local studios for their events in May and June. College graduation ceremonies went well. We recently had Salem University, Alderson Broaddus University, Pierpoint Community College host their events here. Performances for later in the year are being worked on constantly. Keep checking the website for new events. From Code Enforcement. Code Enforcement issued 47 building permits for a total job cost of $1,584,188.26. 4 citations were issued, 2 condemnation orders, 9 reboards, 14 inspections, 56 animal control calls, 41 C-Click fix complaints, 13 vehicles tagged, 137 high grass NOVs, and 119 work orders were sent out. Brian Reed attended the West Virginia Floodplain Conference in Huntington. From Public Works Department, Public Works, work is being started on the flower planters and hanging baskets for some of the beautification projects throughout the city. Senior banner program is well underway. Board up 12 new structures, 16 grass cut NOVs, and 4 trash NOVs. And the sewer department recorded 10 new sewer calls. From the finance department, open enrollment for PEIA ends May 31st and for Guardian on June 15th. PERS and municipal pension systems seminars were held and attended, and comments from the city employees suggested it was very valuable. Several positions for employment will soon be posted, looking for police officers, public works employees, an account investigator / tax collector, and a police department records clerk. New park superintendent will tentatively start on June 26th. This concludes my report.
City clerk's information, a zoning form in connection with an application to operate a private pub, private wine restaurant, or tavern was filed by Maya Genelozzi, Square One LLC, doing business as Washington Square, 216 Washington Avenue, and returned to the applicant on May 10th, 2023. Unfinished business, consideration of second final reading and public hearing of an ordinance of the City of Clarksburg providing for the abandonment of the public street named Progress Way adjacent to and between tax parcel 51.10, 51.14, and 51.3 on tax map 308 owned by the City of Clarksburg in the City of Clarksburg, Cole Clarksburg District, Harrison County, West Virginia, shown on a plat in the petition for said abandonment on file in the City Clerk's office, providing for findings of fact in connection with said abandonment, and authorizing the execution of the proper quitclaim deed. Notices regarding the public hearing appeared in the Exponent Telegram on May 9th and May 16th.
I will now open the public hearing for this ordinance. Anyone wanting to speak for or against this ordinance may do so at this time. No one wishing to speak, I will close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and second. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Ayes have it.
Consideration of second and final reading and public hearing of an ordinance of the City of Clarksburg to amend Section 745 to add a tax credit for certain new retail business location within the Central Business District. Notices regarding the public hearing appeared as previously stated.
I will now open this public hearing. Anyone wanting to speak for or against this ordinance may do so at this time.
I have a question. How long will these tax credits be in place?
I
Is there a
think
set standard?
10 years we have.
I think that's a little long, Mr. Mayor. Think about what you're doing and how hurtful and monies that need to come into this town. I think 3 years would be really good.
Well,
I'm for tax credits, don't get me wrong, but 10 years is a long time and a lot of revenue that the city's missing out on.
okay, we've had a lot of discussion and about this, and the city attorney, the finance director, and so forth. I think this is unusual, and it's not just giving a tax break just to any business. It has to be a certain type in the downtown district, and it is the most lucrative tax break in the state that we looked at. But we feel to generate some interest in downtown that we would
Is
be
there a
lucrative.
size preference? You mentioned type of business. Are we looking at the size, or what types of businesses are we looking at to do this for?
It had to deal with more of a retail as opposed to just an office space type thing. And we got creative and designed a tax break that would address that issue.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay,
Close the public
we'll
hearing.
close the public hearing at this time.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and second. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Ayes have it.
Reconsideration on second and final reading and public hearing of an ordinance of the City of Clarksburg to create section 115.16 rules of attendance for council members. Notices previously appeared April the 11th and April 18th for this public hearing.
I will open this public hearing for this ordinance. Anyone speaking for or against may do so at this time.
Had this prepared to speak at the last meeting. Fortunately, we didn't have a public comment. I'll do my best to remember everything this time around. Got a little added perspective this time. I've already seen everyone's individual perspective and how they would intend to vote. I don't know if there's going to be a revote this time or if this is just a public comment. I'd like to think that the vote this time would not be the same as the vote last time. Did an analysis of council attendance dating back to 2019 when some of you first took a seat on here, all the way to about the end of March this year. My data here does not reflect April and May this year, for full disclosure. What I've seen right there is both positive and a little bit disappointing. Would like to start with picking on Mr. Hyman here. He has said several times in the meetings about accountability, about how sometimes people make mistakes, and if you make a mistake, you hold yourself accountable and own up to it. I think Mr. Hyman's done that several times. Out of all the information I've processed, I can show the numbers, the statistics, that Mr. Hyman has attended more meetings than any other council member. In fact, his attendance is 97.6% of the time he participates in a council meeting. He has missed meetings, but in his time here, he's participated 97.6% of the time. Next to him, and second and third was very close, but next to him is Councilman Work, attended 95.2% of the time. Closely behind him, Councilman Riffle at 94%, 94.04% of the time. Next to Councilman Riffle is Mr. Mayor, Mr. Marina, 84.97% of the time. Next to him is Councilman Keith at 77.38. And next to him would be Councilman Malfajoe, 76.3. And finally, Councilman Junkins at 74.56% of the time. I would like to put a little asterisk here against Councilman Malfajoe and Councilman Marina. Mr. Malfajoe was shot during your tenure. I did not take into consideration, which absences was during your hospital time.
That's fine.
So I would like everyone to know that, that was a pretty serious tenure that you went through.
Thank you.
As well as Mr. Marina, I believe you had pretty serious shoulder surgery during your time here. That doesn't calculate, does take consideration the time you had to be off for your shoulder injury. So there's the two verbal asterisks would like to put by those two particular attendance numbers. With that in mind, I was very surprised, even with, I believe it was a pretty serious gunshot wound that you had, Mr. Malfajoe. throughout all the records I was able to obtain, I could only find where you'd missed 4 consecutive meetings. That was the most back-to-back misses that you appear to have. I believe considering your injuries is impressive. And I believe the time of your shoulder surgery there, Mr. Marino, looks like there's 8 consecutive meetings that he was absent for. Took a little step further and looked at council salaries. I understand there's an option to have insurance or defer insurance. So I used a metric of about average 2 hours per meeting. This takes into consideration regular, special, and work session meetings. And Mr. Mayor, looks like you average out about $134 an hour. Ms. Drunkins, $125 per hour. Mr. Worth, $31.25 per hour. Mr. Hyman, $60 an hour. Mr. Keith, $76 an hour. But looks like I'm out of time, but it does appear that while council is somewhat of a low-paid position, when you balance the salary, the insurance, and the attendance, looks like it would be pretty lucrative to sit on council for no more time you spend on it.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'd also like to comment on this proposal. Now, call council to West Virginia Code 667, procedures for removal of county, school district, and municipal officers having fixed terms. What you guys are trying to achieve here is already in West Virginia Code. So, I think it's certainly good that procedures are being put in place, okay, for council members to do expected job duties. But I'm not for certain why, that this particular ordinance or amendment, whatever that you want to refer to it as, is even being brought to the table. I'm not an attorney, but under West Virginia Code 667, someone could certainly read it very quickly. And it outlines the procedures when there's inappropriate behavior, inappropriate acts, lack of duty. Okay, so this dance I don't understand, and for future issues, okay, perhaps invoking and having the city attorney go through that code and explain to everyone, when you feel that there's an issue, the state of West Virginia has already given you a form if you want to remove someone, and how to do it fairly and properly so there are no witch hunts, okay? Because regardless of what we all want or what we all do, this has to be fair to everyone. There can never be a situation where one faction gets against another one. It's not fair to you, it's not fair to you, it's not fair to nobody. We're all trying to do right here, okay? I always tell the truth, okay? No more, no less. But, to the other gentleman's comment, during the many years that I was the insurance agent for the city of Clarksburg, the mayor and I worked hand in hand. We saved the citizens, we saved a lot of money, did a lot of good stuff. Agree with that. And, part of what is in the insurance documents leads and guides council as well as to what acceptable behavior and what acceptable conduct is. And I would encourage everyone here to go through your 120-page insurance manual and start reading so that you can understand what benefits that you have and where your protections get lost. Okay, and one of the incumbent things, if you were to look under the conditions of coverage, okay, that outlines what do you have to meet as employees of the city and as council people to be covered by the insurance. Well, the first condition of coverage is that once you are aware of any wrongful act, any act that could bring a lawsuit, any act that is wrong, any act that violates an ordinance, any, and you as council people or you as employees don't turn it in writing to the city's insurance immediately, guess what? You all don't have coverage. Okay, and so I would encourage you, like I have, okay? And you need to start going through and looking at your actions, okay? Because there's many exclusions of coverage as well that pierce an individual council member or employee's coverage, okay? And I know oftentimes the mayor encourages people, sue us if you think we're wrong, okay? You've said that many times. That's part of what this business is, okay? But when we have a total array of things that everybody knows that's going on here in this city, individually and collectively, we're trying to monitor council members' behaviors through ordinance. We've got tremendous issue throughout the city on multiple counts. We all know the FOIAs that are being done by multiple citizens. We all know the personal issues of Spring Avenue. All of this misconduct, y'all better go back and read your insurance documents real close. Okay, because there is some very concerning stuff, in my opinion. And I'm calling it to your attention because there are multiple citizens who are in jeopardy because of the behaviors and the things that have gone on between council, city employees, and everything else. So as you consider these sorts of issues as a council and putting it on paper, start with your insurance policy and state ordinance would be my recommendation to you. Thank
you. Anyone else wishing to speak on this ordinance? With no further, I'll close the public hearing.
So moved.
Been moved?
Discussion.
Moved in second? Discussion.
I'd like to add that State Code 667 leaves an open door, and I believe that's got the city in trouble before for going after certain members of council. And so what this does is actually sets a kind of like limits or, I guess an order of, that way we can't target people and say, well, you've missed 2 or 3 meetings. We're going to oust you out here. Now it actually says you've missed 2 or 3 meetings. We can take action. So that's why that works. It is based on the state code. So that's all I have to add. Thanks.
Okay. Any other discussion? I would like to say on that too. I think when you start to put in these rules and regulations to go after elected officials, we have other ways to do that. I'll agree with Mr. Lopez. I think there are other ways that we don't have to do this ordinance. And that's why I voted against it last time. That's why I voted against it this time. I think the citizens have put us in here, and I think the citizens are the one to take us out. I, for one, will not report to any of my fellow council members or the city clerk or whoever they want me to report to. That won't happen. If I have to miss, I'll miss, and then there will be I just want to caution people of lawsuits, and it did get us in trouble before, so I'm afraid it will get us in trouble again. But nonetheless, that's why we have council. That's why we take votes. And I just want to when I vote no, I want to state the reason why I vote no for an ordinance or whatever we're trying to enact. But with that being said, no further discussion. We have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
No.
Will Hyman.
Aye.
Gary Keith.
Aye.
Jim Malpajo.
Aye.
Jerry Riffle.
Aye.
Wayne Worth.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Junkins.
No.
Mayor Marino.
No.
Motion passes.
Motion passes.
New business, consideration of first reading of an ordinance of the City of Clarksburg to set salary for city manager and enter into contract with the same.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved in second.
I'd like some discussion. It appears through some research of the charter itself, the codified ordinances, it looks like there's already an existing section of 1712.07. So confirming with the city attorney.
Wait, we're the one before that. We're on A.
Oh, I'm sorry. Disregard. I'm trying to move through this. I'm sorry.
That's someplace to be.
You're in a hurry, aren't you?
I'm sorry. Disregard.
Okay.
Sorry
We have
about
a
that.
first and a second. Did we want discussion or not? No discussion. Okay, first, second, all in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Ayes have it.
Consideration of first reading of an ordinance of the City of Clarksburg to add section
You will.
1712.07 to specify penalties for certain violations of the property maintenance standards. This ordinance was tabled on May 4th.
So moved. Second.
Been moved and second.
Mr. Mayor, again.
Discussion?
Yeah.
You're up.
Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate it. Like I said, I jumped down. I'm extremely sorry about
No
that.
problem.
When you gotta act, you gotta act. You know, so we found that there is an existing codified section of the ordinance, codified ordinances 1712.07. So I'm asking to motion to amend it to 1712.08.
Okay, the motion to amend that to 1712.08.
Second.
Been moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? It passes.
Consideration of first reading of an ordinance establishing salaries or compensation for municipal.
You need to do the amendment. You
Oh.
amended it, now you need to consider the amended motion.
As the amended motion to.
So moved.
Second. Moved and second. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? I have it on the amended.
Thank you. We'll get there.
motion.
Consideration of first reading of an ordinance establishing salaries or compensation for municipal officers or employees for fiscal year 2023-2024 and repealing all inconsistent ordinances.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and second. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Ayes have it.
Consideration of a resolution to approve revision to the city budget for fiscal year 2022-2023.
Been moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Ayes have it.
Consideration of a supplemental resolution providing as to the payment and requisition of the Waterworks System Design Revenue Bonds, Series 2023A, West Virginia DWTRF Program, the Waterworks System Design Revenue Bonds, Series 2023B, West Virginia DWTRF Lead Service Line Program, and the Waterworks System Design Revenue Bonds, Series 2023C, West Virginia DWTRF Lead Service Line Program forgivable of the City of Clarksburg, authorizing the Clarksburg Water Board to make all the requisitions and payments for the pre-construction activities relating to the Series 2023 bonds without requiring prior approval from the City of Clarksburg and making other provisions as to the bonds.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and second. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Ayes have it.
Consideration of authorizing the mayor to execute a land and water conservation fund grant agreement for renovation of 2 tennis courts and 8 pickleball courts.
Been moved
Second.
and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Ayes have it.
Council comments?
Council comments, we'll start down on this end. Councilman Malfajoe.
Thank you. Folks, if you see something, say something. Pick up the phone, dial 911. I'd like to commend the DOH for fixing Main Street and all the potholes. Next meeting, I would like to have put on the agenda a fund for the facade program this fiscal year for another $20,000, please. Nice to see all the candidates, Drew, Hattie, and Mark here this evening. As far as Mr. Lopez is concerned, I'm not allowed to comment. I have no experience. I am not a contractor, designer, or anything. And as a council member, I mean, that's why we hired Thrasher for the project. And, you know, when it comes to stuff like that, you know, we're not allowed to tell city employees what to do. We have to go through the city manager, and the city manager confides in with the city attorney. So, you know, do I agree or disagree with you, Mr. Lopez? You know, I'm not going to comment because it's not my place to do that. That's why we have the city manager and the city attorney. Everybody have a nice weekend. It's going to be beautiful. And have a nice Memorial Day weekend, so we won't see you till it's Memorial Day. It's Memorial Day weekend, right? Yeah, Memorial Day weekend. See you all in June. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Riffle.
I want to congratulate Detectives Swagger and Detective Chris. I've known them for a long time personally, and I know they're a great asset to the city. And Chief Kitty, obviously understands that as well. So looking forward to them serving here for a long time and continuing to make an impact like they are, have already done. As far as Spring Avenue, I was not aware of the new things that John Workman has done. That's great, that you were happy with those things. I can't really comment. I know I didn't get that email on April 6th. I don't know, later in the month, but I finally saw it. I can't really comment because I don't know exactly what's happened over there with the new things that John Workman has done. I would definitely like to find out more what has been done over there and what the plan is next. So that's all I can really say now. As far as the trails, that's been discussed extensively. It seems like longer than a Spring Avenue problem. No, sorry, and we've had public meetings, and the grant application is very detailed. All that information is on there. I don't have the grant application in front of me. I don't want to speak directly on anything. I know there's discussion about erosion. An engineering study will be done first. It starts with that, and if there's something which say that the trails would not work there, then they would not work there. I wouldn't try to push for that. I don't think anybody else would against an engineer's recommendations. But the application, Brittany has worked on extensively. And if she's on board with things and she's involved, I have a lot of confidence in that done right. I encourage those that want to know more information to request that application to find out what's all on there for themselves. And I think all of your questions would be answered at that point. Let's see what else. I think that's about all I got. Everybody have a great weekend.
Thank you, Councilman Moore.
Yeah, I'd like to first congratulate our police officers for these awards. Especially Sergeant Detective Swagger and Chris. That was a very complex investigation to try to figure out when you're just dealing with just a car and just a description, and to trace that back to the state of California as a rental, and then Orchard Park, New York. That's some great detective work, and how expeditiously that transpired is amazing. And I also want to congratulate, Patrolman Perky, Corbin, Murphy, and Stern for graduating from the State Police Academy, and their willingness to serve the city of Clarksburg. And also Patrolman First Class Randolph for, being an Officer of the Month for April. When you're out there, it's a very thankless job. It's probably the hardest job in the city too. But I think every single one of our police officers are doing that. And that's probably the number one basic, thing that we should be providing our citizens in our city as government officials is public safety, and infrastructure, of course, is a close second. So I think we have a stellar police department, and it's because of these folks and their willingness and our leadership with Chief Kidd. Also, I want to thank our code enforcement. I was looking here at the city manager's report, and they've been really busy this month. That's a lot of work. 137 high grass notices of violation. It's not many people in that department, but for the work that they did this month, I just want to thank them for that. I think a lot of times they don't get the credit that they need or the praise, and I'm sure they don't do it for that, but I'll praise them. To respond to the Spring Street and having a public forum, I'll take some responsibility for that. I think, my job as a city council member is to try to follow up, with my city manager to at least try to facilitate, that sort of public forum. And and I'll do that right afterwards, and right after this meeting. As for the Stormwater Committee, I don't really know much about where we're at in the process of that, but, I'll do some follow-up on that too. To respond to the elections, I really have to defer that to, our city attorney, because I really don't know, what the outcome would be if the citizens vote one way or the other. At least I know one, the outcome of one way, but that's more of a legal question. Pertaining to we passed tonight the tax credit ordinance for businesses in the central business district that, want to open retail businesses, and I think part of that is that they have to refurbish an old building too. I look at that as a tremendous asset for our city. It's very bold. It's a very bold move on our part. Probably one of the most aggressive, tax incentives for retail of any municipality in our state. My hope is that on the other side of that, 10 years from now, the revenue that we make from the 1% will hopefully not only match what we would make from B&O, but also hopefully exceed that. And the other part of that is too, yes, infrastructure, public safety, making sure when you flush a toilet, you know where it's going. Those are all vital and important, but also our quality of life for our citizens is important too. And we shouldn't overlook that. And I think this will help that maybe long after I'm off council. So that's all I got. I appreciate you guys coming out. Appreciate the 3 candidates coming out, and have a great weekend.
Thank you, Councilman Ware. Councilman Heath?
Well, first thing that stuck out to me from everyone speaking, Chris, thank you so much for helping the senior center. I was previously on the senior center board, and those fleet costs kill that organization. I don't think many people realize how much people depend on that transportation. And I would encourage you, anything you can ever do to help them, I don't run your business, but, even if you could give them a break on labor or sell them stuff at cost, the senior center, so many people would not be able to get transportation to doctor's appointments, and even they'll go pick them up and just take them to the store. And that's not just Clarksburg residents. They'll drive to Wallace, take you to the grocery store, and take you back, which is insane, but it's a service that so many people would be in trouble without. So thank you for helping with that. I talked to Mr. Lopez on the phone the other day, and he told me that there was some excavation going on over there. And I actually went over to take a look for myself a couple days later, and man, I thought it looked really good. So I'm really disappointed to see you're still mad. I'm really disappointed. I really don't know what to say at this point. I don't want to make light of it, but I don't know how you guys who've been together this whole time ended up so far on different pages at this point too. I mean, maybe I need to come when it rains and look again, but what I could picture and what I thought the problem was, and once again, I'm not an engineer. I don't want to get sued, like you said, but gosh, man, it looked so much better. And I mean, yeah, I understand blacktop curbs are not always ideal, but that's kind of the standard these days. People aren't building curbs like that like they used to. I mean, go drive around Bridgeport. There's a lot more no sidewalks and blacktop curbs than there are old school, like we have.
Actually, city code prohibits blacktop curbs.
In Bridgeport?
Clarksburg prohibits.
I didn't know that. So, anyway, if the amendment fails, I went along with what the city attorney has told us to do, and I've got great trust for the city attorney. I think he's probably one of the smartest guys I've ever had a conversation with. I wouldn't have an argument with him. So I trust him. I understand you don't agree. But I can tell you, if the amendment fails, I'll probably just go ahead and resign because I really don't want to do this anymore. In fact, I'll promise that right now. I don't see it failing, but if it does, I don't want to do this anymore.
I don't care either way.
I mean, that's my response. That's the best response I can give you just from my perspective. Mr. Thompson, I feel like you're my friend. You come to my business, you get oil changes from me. But I feel like I've told you and your wife this multiple times. I don't understand why we can't communicate. There's basically no plan to move forward with this unless we get the grant. This council actually voted this down. I think me and Jerry were the only ones that voted for it. So it died.
Then why are you continuing? If
I
it
think the
died-
council agreed that if we could get a grant, they would consider it. But that would be so many votes away.
Yeah, we voted it down.
It was voted down. And that was, what we voted down was to give money to the engineering study. So that's how we tried to do it, but that vote failed.
Okay.
So unless we get money, as far as I'm concerned, I guess we're spending some hours on it with our grant writer working on it, but it would be at this point years from happening. I just feel like you don't want to hear me on that because I had like a month conversation with your wife trying to convince her it wasn't ATVs and dirt bikes. And I told her over and over, and I just don't understand why. It's like, we're not talking about this. We're not voting on it, and there's no plan. And I've told you straight up, there's no plan. Like, you asked for a plan, I said there's no plan. I mean, I can't be any more honest with you. I mean, unless it passes, unless we get a grant, and I'll be long off this council by the time it's voted on again. So it'll probably just Jerry vote yes for it then. I don't know what to tell you. That's all I have on that. And the attendance thing, I'm pretty disappointed to hear my numbers. I would almost like to hear that broken down to regular meetings and work sessions because I had a pretty significant change in my life a couple years ago. And it's one of the reasons that this just feels like too much for me and why I didn't run again. I would bet that my number of regular meetings is much more. And I am lucky to have a government job where I get lots of vacation and lots of sick days and things like that I can utilize. And I've not missed, I went back through my calendar and I think because there was discussion online, I think I've missed 3 meetings, real meetings. I'm not talking about special meetings or work sessions. But there was a point there where we were doing sometimes 2 and 3 work sessions, maybe even 4 a month. I mean, we were really rock and rolling at one point. And unfortunately, I'm not blessed like I think everybody else on council to have either day jobs or be retired. So I work a 24-hour job and I've missed some meetings. But I'm pretty sure I've been here for a lot higher percentage of regular meetings. But anyway, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Hyman?
Thanks, Mayor. I guess let's start with some good news. Congratulations to Detective Swagger and Detective Chris on receiving that awesome award for the incident up at the cell phone place, Emily Drive. Great to see them being recognized by Chief Kitty. That's great news. Congratulations to the new patrolmen that have graduated from the police academy. Another 4 officers for the force. That's great news as well. Let's talk about some of the things that we're talking about tonight. Let me first start by saying I have an awful time concentrating on one thing, and that's why I totally skipped over item A. I was so cocked and loaded to go after the amendment that I skipped it, and I did that at our last meeting too about the public hearing. I was so ready to jump on that, and I moved it. Obviously, we didn't have a public hearing. I'll take owns for that. And I do that. I do it at home. I do it at work. Sometimes I mess up. You talk about accountability. Here it is, Chris, just for you. Let's see, Spring Avenue. Well, I stopped in the city manager's office today. He alerted me today that there was some excavation going on over there. I have not looked at it yet. As far as a committee of some sort, I think Wayne took some responsibility. I'll do it too. I think we should get together and we'll make sure that happens. What was the other item on this spring there? I'm sorry, the wastewater treatment. I'm sorry, the MS4 committee. There you go. Thank you. That's why we keep you around. I've got some information from Drew Eddy, the sanitary department superintendent down there, and he showed me some charters of those committees. It's very detailed. I'm concerned going down that road. I'm sure we'll hash it out. I believe we have to, but I'm concerned. I'm concerned with some of the things we have to do to satisfy the requirements of that committee. And there's, from what I understand, only a handful of those in the entire state. And those committees come along with certain burdens on the taxpayers regarding, most notably in Berkeley County, what they call the rainwater tax. You may have heard of that, but it's definitely a hot button issue in Berkeley County and in the city of Martinsburg. So we're going to have to approach that very gingerly. I think obviously we have to discuss it, but I'm not quite sure we're ready for what it entails. So I think it needs to be done. It's probably a ways off. Regarding the election, when we passed that ordinance and to amend the charter again, I reached out to Mr. Marsh, and I don't want to throw him under the bus, but I asked him. I think it was back in December or January when we started discussing it, and then up to when we passed it, we discussed it, and I said, because I was concerned, what exactly is going to happen if the amendment fails? And I'm going to move into this, segue into this other topic here. I believe that the Charter Amendment 3 and Amendment 5 are separate. Charter Amendment 3 moves the election to the May primary on even years. Amendment 5 is the vehicle to make that happen. Obviously, the Secretary of State said that was wrong. The Water Board approached us with their counsel and said, we need to fix it. And that's what we did. So, again, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm looking at it objectively. I'm not an attorney, but I think there's either two options. One is it nullifies the 2023 election, which I don't know if that's a possibility, because that would end in serious litigation against the city and possibly all of us up here, I would assume. Then the other aspect could be was it fails and the three existing members on council would stay on for one more year and serve their 5-year term as it was originally intended. I know that, to me, if it fails, it seems like we have to go back to the 2021 amendments. I'm sure Marsh can clarify, because I will clarify with him here as soon as this meeting ends. But that being said, if you're out here watching on Facebook land, if you're one of the 980 people that supported it in 2021, Amendment 3, or the 994 people that supported Amendment 5, I want you to go out and support it, because I don't want to end up in litigation and being bogged down. Because if you don't support the amendment, in my opinion, you're not looking forward to the progress of the city. You're not moving forward, because I think, again, Amendment 3 and Amendment 5 are two separate things. One says we're moving the election to the May primary, and 5 is the vehicle that gets it there. And that's what was wrong. I believe that if it does fail, we'll still have to correct it, because Amendment 3 passed overwhelmingly. 67% of the voters supported it. So, if this current amendment fails, we're going to have to address it again. And I don't really want to do that. So I want to move forward. I want to move this thing forward and stop talking about trying to fix this thing, because I think we've done enough. We've exhausted every outlet, and it took some time. And again, it wasn't the best look, but here we are. Support the amendment on the ballot. That's all I can say, and then we won't have an issue. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilman. Vice Mayor?
Tomorrow night at RCB, we are having a color run, Nutter Fort Intermediate School. So I'm looking forward to that, and having something for the kids to do. So come out and support. Also, I've noticed around the city that Public Works has been out and planting, and I'm excited for the city planters to be up. Looking forward to that. Paul Jones, I want to thank you for your work on the banners. A lot of people have contacted me, and they're excited that that's going forward. So thank you for that work, Paul. And that's it. Have a good night.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I have a few comments. Mr. Lopez and Mr. Green, thank you. This is our city way to do things. You have a problem, you come to this city council and we address it. I will disagree with Mr. Lopez about this ongoing for 2 years and multiple neighbors and all these issues. The only people I've seen up here have been you two for the past whatever. We rely on our city manager, our interim city manager, and our engineers and the folks who know how to do business. We rely on them to take care of things. You want us to give you plans before we send a public works crew out there to put in a catch basin. So should we give plans to every catch basin to all the citizens on every street when we do that? Impossible. We don't know when they're going to be able to come. They're working on a job that might take 2 days, but it takes 4. We can't plan and notify the citizens that we're going to be there on a certain day at a certain time. Impossible. Totally impossible. Those guys went out and did an outstanding job. I went over there, I looked at it. You might not be happy with the blacktop curb. You might not be happy with the catch basin they put in. It sounds like nothing pleased you, Mr. Lopez, but those guys went out there and did their job.
Job's not done. There's more. There's a lot that
There's a lot. They're doing what they need. They're doing what they need to do, Mr. Lopez. I mean, I don't know if they'll ever please you with whatever they do, but they're doing the job. The DEP sent a report, and I know there's a big, because my name was on it, they sent a report to Mayor Marino on April 6th. Mayor Marino is a figurehead. He did not get that report on April 6th. I want to clarify that. It went to the engineer, the proper people who are supposed to get that. The mayor, my name's on it, but I did not receive that letter on April 6th.
The other emails the DEP sent since then.
None to me.
Your employees have them.
Well, I don't have any of that, but I know it was directed to me because I saw the date on the letter. I did not receive it, but nonetheless, the work got done in a timely manner. The interim city manager sent out the crew. Mr. Workman doesn't go out and do jobs unless he's directed to, and the praise and glory. Johnny Workman and the Public Works did a great job. The interim city manager's been working on it. Our city engineer. Thrashers. The job was done, and I got to go back. It was a MS4 project. It was simply to take out stormwater out of the sanitary system. That was the project. It wasn't to come in and put new curbs, new sidewalks, a total blacktop street. That wasn't the plan. We don't have the money to do that. The plan was to take out the stormwater out of the sanitary. Simple project. It wasn't to do anything else. Now, they put a manhole that wasn't quite at the location, and we give it that. The DEP reported that. It wasn't at the proper location. A simple fix. I think they were 1 day, 2 days, corrected it, and everything's good. So like this has been an ongoing problem for 2 years and has nothing been done? False. It's false. There hasn't been a problem. They had a project that they started, they completed it, and now we completed it. So we have to move on. With that being said, I want to thank Mr. Thompson for coming. And the questions that he asked are spot on. Those are the questions that I asked whenever this was first brought up, before it went to a grant writer. A company came in, they said $250,000, we'll put you a bike park in. Some people were all on board for that. I asked questions about the liability insurance, about the erosion, about the Civil War, all of these things, the maintenance of it. And none of that was identified. None of that was identified at that time. I thought this should have been a park board project because you are going to have erosion. You are going to have trees fall down. You are going to have issues that need taken care of. And the park board was the vehicle to drive this through. But they weren't involved in it for whatever reason. I don't know. They should have been the driving force behind this bike park. I agree with all those questions, and I still have those questions, but I'll agree with what these guys said. Nothing's done. There's a grant going to come before us, and I'll nitpick through that grant before I ever vote for that at all. I'll look through that grant to make sure, again, all those things you said, Mr. Thompson, were correct. I had those same questions whenever that was first brought up. That was my big issue. I'm not against the bike park. I'm for doing your due diligence and having everything spelled out. I did the liability insurance. I know that could be a problem. Like you say, even if you do all the right things, you're still going to get sued. But at least you want to have all the signage that you need and all your I's dotted and T's crossed. You need to do that. So I I agree with everything you said about that bike park. And I will make sure if I'm still on this council, when that grant comes through here, I will nitpick through it, make sure they have soil samples. Because you're right, there's homes down below it, and you can't tell me you're going to make bike trails down through a wooded area through on dirt. It's not going to erode. There's not going to be trees falling. Yeah, it better have all that spelled out. I agree with you. I thank you for coming and addressing that issue. And again, the city manager is looking into the interim city manager is looking into those committees and so forth. They're not just done overnight. He's done research. What do other cities do? How do they form that committee? Some use their sanitary board as that vehicle and so forth. So we are looking into it, but it's not going to be done overnight. I can assure you that there will be that looked into. And as soon as he has a solution or resolution to that, we'll know about it. Then you'll know about it. But until he gets that cleared up, it won't be done. The B&O tax break downtown. It is very aggressive. It is kind of scary when you do those kinds of things, and I agree with you. But I want to also say, probably about 25 years ago, maybe 30 years ago, they were looking at doing something at East Point. And at that time, those council people said, man, we're going to give these tax breaks. The people were up in arms. You're going to get tax breaks to Walmarts and Kroger's and these big businesses to come here. If we didn't be creative and do that 30 years ago or however long ago, East Point wouldn't be there and would be in bad shape. So sometimes you got to go outside the box and make it where it looks like we're giving away the farm, but at the same token, we've got to get creative and do that. So I commend this council for stepping outside the box and being creative and giving something that kind of looks scary. But I've witnessed that years ago, and it was scary out there. You're going to give these big companies a break to come out to East Point, New Point. They weren't going to come, but they gave them a break. And I'd say it worked out for the city of Clarksburg because we wouldn't be here today if that didn't happen out there on East Point and New Point. That's just a little thing about being creative and doing stuff like that. I too support the amendment. We have to now, I voted against it. I voted against changing it because the voters voted for us to have that 5-year term, but the state says that's not, that wasn't right. So we were kind of in a little quagmire there with that. So here we are, and it is kind of crazy. We're running, and we have an amendment on the ballot to run. I say, let's just count that amendment first before we count the votes to see who gets in. Just being sarcastic on that, but still, we got to support the amendment. I'm all in favor. People are out there are working hard. They're spending their time. This is a legit election. I wouldn't want to see that guy. I see him everywhere, and we're going to say it's not legit now. And this guy and that lady. So we got to support that amendment, folks, because if we don't, it's kind of crazy not to. And one final thing, I'm so excited. It's been a long time coming, but June 12th, remember that day, our new city manager will take her office on June 12th. It's an exciting time. She's already working behind the scenes doing things, and she's going to come here and hit the ground running. I think everybody will be impressed as we were. She's going to do a great job and great things for Clarksburg, the future to come. And my one final statement: go out and vote. That's the most important thing in this city. Is that's your right to do. Go out there and cast that ballot. And even if it's not for me, but I'm sure that won't happen. But even if it's not, still go out and vote. Just kidding. Okay, guys. Thank you for coming out tonight. I love the interaction we have with the citizens, and we'll continue that in the future. So I'll entertain.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Adjourn. Jimmy, you were sleeping down there.
Please do. Bring your mask.